Welcome to Rock and Blues Review. It is sometimes difficult to find a perfect introduction for my guests, but today I could not improve on Billboard's observation that nobody has released more consistently excellent blues albums than Atlanta's Tinsley Ellis. Welcome to the show, Tinsley.
Hey Bob, good to see you.
It is great to see you. I have seen you probably four times for sure, and always great shows. So we are thrilled to have you here today, and you are going to be at the Sportsman Tavern in Buffalo on February 15th. So, what can your fans expect from this tour?
Well, I'll be doing a lot of songs off my new Labor of Love album and songs off of Naked Truth, and then songs off of the previous albums, of which there are many, over 20. So I never know exactly which songs to play, but I always, when it comes to the older songs, but I always want to, throw in some of the songs that maybe people have heard in the past, like Pawnbroker or A Quitter Never Wins, and try to guess what the old ones would be.
Yeah, well, the Sportsman's a great venue. It's a great setup stage, nice and intimate. So, it's a perfect place to play, really.
Great.
And you yourself, you've got such a clean, smooth, pleasing sound to your electric work. Is that something that you found came naturally, or have you worked towards honing your skills towards a certain goal over the years?
Well, I never want to sound nervous or hurried or rushed. That's more like the music of youth rebellion, and there's no youth rebellion left in me. And so I tend to gravitate towards more of that oh, I don't know, BB King or Allman Brothers or Eric Clapton kind of thing. That's the music of my youth, and I still think it's great, and that's why they call it classic rock.
Yeah. But you are distinct. I mean, and I think the last time I saw you, I could be wrong, was with Coco Montoya, and you were fantastic.
Let's see, where would that have been?
It
Did I
might have been
play?
Art Park. It might have been Art Park in
No,
Lewiston.
no, but I played there with the Nighthawks years back.
Okay. Yeah, it's different.
Uh, I wonder.
Southside
Yeah,
Shuffle.
no, but I played all over the country with Coco, the really long tour.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
I can't
you know what?
remember.
I'm wrong. The last time I saw you was actually in Florida a couple of years ago.
Oh, cool.
But
I
that show
I get
was,
around.
yeah. So two acoustic albums. Why now, and how did they come about?
Well, this is what I do now. I'm in love with Mississippi music at the moment, and I always have been, and I feel like I've kind of suppressed it. I actually started off on acoustic guitar and then gravitated towards electric and rock bands and stuff like that. But I love the sound of all the different styles of Mississippi music and open tunings and national steel guitar and stuff like that. And I did the Naked Truth album, which was my first acoustic album 2 years ago. And I think everyone thought maybe it would just be a one-off, but then I went and did hundreds of shows all over America. And when I turned in the new album, and Alligator Records was all about me sticking with this direction.
Oh, yeah, I was going to mention that because Vintage Guitar did an article on you and they talked about, the resonator and some of your guitars. Do you have favorite vintage guitars that you like?
Well, electrically, I've got the 59 Strat and I've got a 1967 ES 345. Those are the main two. Acoustically, I got the 1937 uh, National Steel and then the old Martin D35, which is pretty much the workhorse for this tour.
Yeah. Other guitarists who like to come and watch you, they like to know that kind of stuff. You know, they want to see what you're using. They want to sit up close, see what you're doing. Um, do you find that those acoustic songs give you a chance to express your vocals more than the electric?
And storytelling as well. I talked during the show about some old blues people that I actually sat at the feet of. I'm old enough to have done that. And by the 1980s, a lot of them were gone, but I was the kid that would sit right there in the front row, literally at the feet of Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters, and of course BB King. And then I got to Chicago in the 1980s to get with Alligator Records and got a chance to actually jam with a lot of the blues artists that were still alive. You know, Otis Rush and Buddy Guy, Albert Collins, Coco Taylor. So it was really good timing. It saddens me now that Buddy Guy is pretty much the only one from that old guard that's still with us. And, he's on the longest retirement tour I've ever heard in
Yes,
my
yes.
life, which is kind of cool. That's an old show business trick, by the way.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised. Actually, my first interview about a year ago was Tom Hambridge, who,
Yeah.
his writer, producer, and I think it's a bit of a surprise that it's gone on this long. But hey,
He still sounds great. And I think probably, he just did his residency there in Chicago, which is a great place to see him. I always enjoyed seeing the blues artists in their hometown of Chicago. But Buddy is, I think I just saw that he was flying over to Australia to do the big blues festival there. So that's hardly retirement.
yeah, that's a long trip. What about you? Do you still like touring?
I love it. I've
Yeah,
got the album A Labor of Love coming out. I'm doing the whole country, two guitars and a car.
nice. So that's a lot of driving.
Well, it's all laid out pretty well with 4 to 6 hour drives every day, and then the show. And I eat my Wheaties, so I think I'm up for the task. And at some point, maybe I need to bring somebody with me to help. But right now, it's just me with the guitars and CDs and vinyl.
Yeah. Well, I think there's 34 dates already listed. So what do you consider a perfect length before it gets too long on a tour?
Well, back in the day, we used to go out for 13, 14 weeks at a time when the album was brand new. And now they've got me doing 6 weeks, and then I come home and lick my wounds and then go back out for another 4 weeks. So it seems best to kind of do them in legs, but it's a big country. I tell you what, it's a big country, and I've driven every inch of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work too. And like I said, people, guitars and peers want to watch you and learn from you and pay attention, but also they got to learn about that touring part. And you have said in the past that, the way to get music to young people or new people is to actually bring it to them. So you're still doing that, obviously.
Yeah, that's really, with any kind of roots music, whether it's jazz or blues or bluegrass, that's the kind of music that doesn't necessarily get on, late night TV, the big shows, or certainly not the Super Bowl halftime show or anything like that. But so we got to kind of take it to the people, and no blues artist ever got known by staying at home.
You talked about some of the masters a second ago, and you kind of stay humble when you're referring to those guys. But you certainly earned your own. There must be some moments of great pride for you.
Well, I one of the great things about playing and especially doing shows with other people are those jam sessions. And I've been really fortunate. If you play your cards right, and you might get invited to join the headliners set if you open up for them. And certainly I played with all the Southern rock people, the Allman Brothers a number of times, and Derek and Susan and
Hmm.
Government Mule and Widespread Panic, all the Southern artists, and then all the blues artists too. So that's the real payoff right there.
Yeah. Uh, uh, and you certainly earned it. I mean, obviously you belong there and they appreciate having you there too. And now my brother asked me to ask you, he said he thought it was very cool one time when you mentioned that you thought it was very cool to play with Kim Simmons.
Oh yeah, Kim. We did a lot of shows together, but the first time I met him and played with him was in London, Ontario, and we were playing there for a week, and his week was starting, and he came a day or two early, and we got to jam, and we are certainly kindred spirits, and I really miss Kim. We I wrote a song with him called "Sign of the Blues" that came out on my Trouble Time album, and that was the radio song off the album, and they don't make cats like that anymore. And to hear him talk about, coming up in the clubs in London and, he'd go see Led Zeppelin at a place that held like 100 people and Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac and John Mayall and the Blues Breakers playing in the little clubs. And of course, all those people came over to America and became stadium acts. But Kim was right there with Savoy Brown from day one.
Yeah, I actually saw him my first year college, so that was a long time ago as well. Now you have gotten pretty good at using social media. Your Sunday morning coffee on Instagram, are you still doing that?
No, I did that all through the pandemic where I'd
That's
post a song every Sunday morning with just me and acoustic guitar. And that's kind of was the birth of the of my acoustic persona now. And I mean, I suppose I could go into reruns with those. I still got them all. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that very much. And I would do an original song, and then the next week maybe I would do a Bob Dylan song, and then I do another original the next week, and then maybe Skip James or Son House song, and it was fun doing that. It was hard to pick which song I was going to feature.
yeah. Again, I think peers and other players really like that kind of thing. They get to study you. How did your young life lead you to the blues? I know your dad was into it. Is that what influenced you the most?
My dad was actually the one that told me to go see Howlin' Wolf, and he was what they call an ethnomusicologist, Satchmo and big band music, which is probably the greatest music this country's ever produced, in my opinion. But yeah, he didn't want me to do it for a living, that's for sure. But he was into the jazz and gospel music. They used to call it spirituals. And I got hooked in the guitar thing in 1964, February of 1964, when the me and my sister and parents gathered in front of the TV set, and a new band called the Beatles came on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Mhm.
And that was it for me. I heard the twanging guitars and the screaming, and the songs were great, and they had a different kind of look. They didn't look like a surf music band, which was the only music before that I can really remember would be like the Ventures.
Right.
But they came out, and I begged my parents for a guitar, and they rented me an acoustic guitar. They were hoping it would be a phase. Well, here I am still in the phase, but they rented me an acoustic guitar with the understanding that I would take guitar lessons. So I think I took 3 or 4 guitar lessons, and then I released myself on my own recognizance, and completely self-taught. I'm what's known as a keg party jammer. You put a piece of sheet music in front of me, and that's it. I stop playing. I'll just look at it. But I wish I had learned to about the all those circles and dots and lines of written music, but I never did. And you know what? The people that I really enjoy listening to, they don't know much about it either. Uh, so I'm probably more Jackie Gleason than I am Jimi Hendrix. And we got to put a smile on people's faces.
Yeah, but that follows. You're talking about that acoustic stuff and the personal, the stuff you write. It's all there's more of an emotional connection, a raw connection than technical.
Well, there is, and storytelling has become a big part of my show now. And I noticed that when I certainly loved all my rock and roll years, over 50 of them. Having a band and loud and wild and stuff. And but if I look at the audience and I'm playing that, everybody's got kind of a serious look on their face, and I'm up there all squinching my face all up. Well, now when I play these acoustic shows, I look out there and people are smiling and I'm smiling and maybe telling some funny stories. And I don't know, maybe I think this is where I need, right where I need to be at this moment. But I still play electrically, and I got a recording studio about 20 feet to my right, to your left over there. And I fire up all the old guitars and and write songs for other artists. I've written I wrote Tooth and Nail for the Blood Brothers, which is Mike
Mm.
Zito and Albert Castiglia, and they did a beautiful version of that. And then I wrote another one for I think there are two of those albums that Joe Bonamassa produced. So songwriting is kind of my outlet for my electric music.
So you just mentioned a couple of younger guys. Who else among the young people are inspiring you?
Oh wow, of course, Kingfish is the main guy. That guy can play anything. And certainly blues is his vehicle, but he could play jazz or rock or any kind of music. He's just a phenomenon, and I'm glad he does so well. And then of course, thinking of the newer people, Eddie 9 Volt from here in Georgia. I don't know if you're familiar with Eddie
No,
9V.
no.
Well, he's just got signed to the Black Keys record label, and they're going to produce an album on it. He does a sort of a soul version of blues, and a heck of a guitar player. And I mean, his blues playing is almost second to none. He's got a cool voice. So he's from here in Georgia, also from here. And these guys are in their 20s, And also here in Georgia is John Tavius Willis, who's an acoustic blues artist who is also now going electric. So he's going the opposite direction as me. But John Tavius is from West Georgia, and wow, what a great guitar player he is! Just knocks my socks off. So the blues will never die, but they don't make BB Kings anymore, which is sad. But those that kind of music came from really troubled times, and now people have different experiences that they sing about and stuff like that. I tend to listen to music from a period of about, oh, I don't know, 1964 to 1974. That's my sweet
Me,
spot.
yeah, me too.
That makes me a geezer, by the way.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, so there you go. I guess I am too. Yeah. But you mentioned working in the studio, and do you and you mentioned a lot of great players, young and old. And now that you've worked with them and met them, do you find that uh, their past shapes their writing, their input, or can they just, you know, do what is popular, or can they actually zero in on that history and their own background?
Well, I think that is a big part of being soulful is being comfortable with where you're coming from, where you've come from, and like I said, the original blues people, they came up under some hard times. They were farmers, factory workers that played music on the weekend, and then of course here comes the Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton doing their songs, and next thing you know, they've got a leg up. And but originally, I think that I'll just give you an example. I saw Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, BB King, all those folks back in the day, over and over again. I never once saw any of those people back in the day get out of a tour bus. They would travel in a like the Star, Muddy Waters, and maybe Otis band would be in a car driven by somebody, and the rest of the band would be in a station wagon or a van. So the whole notion of blues artists becoming rock stars, um, that's or the idea that you could even make a living at it. That is something that is almost like a fluke.
Hmm. Right. And speaking of that, I mean, nobody says you want to be rich, go into the blues. But now that you're established and well known, and especially as a writer and electric player, have you ever thought about slipping over into country or a different genre?
Well, there's really nothing country about me. I'm coming from more of a British blues thing, to be perfectly honest with you. The first time I ever heard blues was played by I think Brian Jones played the slide part on The Red Rooster by the Rolling Stones, Little Red Rooster. That's the first time I ever heard it. And then somebody's older brother said, "Well, hey, I hear you digging on this Mike Bloomfield and Johnny Winter and Cream." He said, "Well, there's a guy you got to go see, and his name is B.B. King. He's the one they're all getting this from."
Right.
So it was really underground music when I was coming up, but that's kind of my wheelhouse. Anytime I've deviated too far away from bluesy type music, I haven't had any happiness or success with it. Now I do love some harder rock and stuff. I love
Hmm.
ZZ Top. Oh, boy, do I love ZZ Top. And mentioned the Allman Brothers earlier, and and I dig on the newer, harder edge stuff, Black Keys, and so I have open ears. I haven't really caught on to the hip hop or rap thing, but I'm open-minded to it, and I realize that's definitely music for somebody that's younger than me, which would be a lot of people. And but I'm open-minded to it. Somebody told me that the first person that incorporates that hip hop style into BB King type singing or and guitar playing, they said that person would be the next BB King. But that's not what I'm going to do. But that's an interesting thought, appeal to a younger crowd. And uh, so I just keep doing what I'm doing, and right now I'm mining this Mississippi music thing and having a lot of fun with it. And I do miss, when I had my electric band, I'd be the closing act or next to closing act at a blues festival, close the show. And now I've gone back to playing earlier in the day because I'm doing the folk blues thing. But that's cool too.
Yeah. But it lends itself more to the smaller venues too, the acoustic show.
I don't mind that. Every show that's ever blew my mind was in a small bar somewhere.
Right.
Seeing Stevie Ray Vaughan play for 40 people, three sets, three 1 hour sets he played. And in front, nobody knew who he was. And that show blew my mind. And seeing people and and then of course they get the fame, and then next thing they're playing some giant place and they're way far away, and you can maybe see them on a big screen. But any show that's ever blew my mind was at a small bar.
Right, absolutely. And so you mentioned two things. You mentioned Stevie Ray, you also mentioned telling stories. Do you have a Stevie Ray story?
He came through Atlanta in the excuse me, in the late 70s, and they were an opening act for some friends of mine, and everybody told me to go. People in the know told me to go see him, and he blew our mind. And then around the same time, I actually saw Stevie Vaughan before Jimmy Vaughan. But that was a real great time, and we got to know the Vaughan brothers here in Atlanta, and everybody got haircuts and played Stratocasters, slicked their hair back and stuff. We did all that stuff, and uh, but Stevie, I remember one time they played in Atlanta. It was right after Louis and Barton left Double Trouble, and they made $35. Double Trouble made $35, and they could only afford one hotel room.
Jeez.
And so Stevie, of course, got that room, and then the bass player and the drummer Chris Layton, and it was before Tommy Shannon joined the band, but they stayed over at our house.
Oh
So the
yeah.
next day, Stevie Ray Vaughan comes over to the house. And of course, we're like, we had seen the show the night before. We were blown away. We knew he was going to be famous. You just know sometimes. And he came over, so we were putting on records. My roommate at the time had a big blues record collection. I had a few of my blues records in there. So Stevie's going through the blues albums, and he put on this album. And then he started playing air guitar in our living room. So I can say that I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan play air guitar.
Yeah, yeah, that's unique for sure. Yeah, he was great. No question. Another one gone too soon, obviously.
Oh, way too soon.
But you mentioned your studio and getting back to some of your electric albums, you've had some great players. I mean, you had Chuck Leavell and Derek
Oh, yeah.
Trucks. Uh, it must pump you up to know you're going into a studio with guys like that.
Yeah, I've been real fortunate to have a lot of people to record with that my heroes. And Tom Dowd, who produced Layla and Live at the Fillmore East Allman Brothers, he produced one of my albums. He brought Duck Dunn to play bass on it. And Richie Hayward from Little Feat, the late great, maybe one of the greatest rock and roll drummers ever. And he played, and Chuck Leavell, of course, and Reese Winans, and
Hmm.
even, some of my rock and roll friends that aren't even blues, like members of REM and stuff like that, I recorded with, use them on albums. So that's a fun thing to do. And my biggest album ever was Storm Warning, which came out on Alligator in 1994. And yep, that's my biggest one right there. And Chuck Leavell's organ playing on that album just really made that record what it is. And then, of course, we featured an unknown guitar player who was 13 years old at the time, and that Derek Trucks. That was his recording debut. So,
Hmm.
running the risk of being a real name dropper here, I got to tell you, I've been real fortunate to have been able to record with these folks. And like I said, I still enjoy playing electric guitar, but I do it only in the studio now.
Yeah, well, you mentioned those guys, and I'm sure they're thrilled to have you too, because like I said, I think I've seen you 4 times, and you always please, and you're always great. So they obviously know that too, you know. So
They put up with me.
no, and that's another thing I've noted. You stay humble. Uh, is that
Well,
something you say? Is that something you've made a point to do?
I think there's probably a lot of people who would tell you that differently about me, but I ain't much, but I'm all I ever think about, and so it's somewhere in between being not much and thinking about yourself all the time is where the sweet spot is. And I uh I want to keep an attitude of gratitude. And if I do that, I'm gonna be more comfortable on stage and more relaxed. I mean, the worst thing that a blues artist can be is to be like a nervous wreck up there, all the blues that I like. I mean, these heroes of mine, they were all so chill up there. I'm not sure what was going on inside their minds or anything, but on stage they were chill. And
Right.
that's what I want to kind of be. And that's a struggle for a nervous honky like me is to settle down into a groove. And I really kind of have to work on that. But I feel like with my acoustic music, I feel like I'm a lot more relaxed up there.
Yeah, certainly more emotional and more in tune. But also, it must create another challenge for you because when you're arranging, studio work for a bigger band and then arranging your own acoustic, the arrangements are completely different. How do you change gears?
Well, I've always, recorded and written my songs in the studio, the demos and stuff. So I'm pretty comfortable just being with just me in my little studio. And so I may, and I tend to do my songwriting at about 7 in the morning. That's my zone right there. And with a cup of coffee,
Hmm.
and I'd be in my pajamas. I mean, with these past two albums, I think I recorded both of them in my PJs. So I may have had pants on a couple songs, but you get in there. But then if you make an album with other musicians, they expect you to be fully clothed, and
I guess, especially, I don't think you want to see you on stage in your pajamas.
no, no. But I can tell you that there's a lot of foot stomping on my albums, and I got this one pair of boots that's that's really good for the foot stomp that you hear in a lot of the songs. So many times I have been in my pajamas with those boots on, stomping away. I think if people from another planet looked down on me or something like that, they would think that I was, maybe in a lunatic asylum or something, certainly dressed to be in one. But I like being comfortable when I record, and you can't really do that as well if you're looking at the clock in some big expensive studio with other musicians and stuff, and everybody and people are looking at you through glass, and you never know what the people in the control room are saying. I always just suspect the worst, tell you the truth.
Right. Well, in 2015, Blues Blast gave you the Rock Blues Album of the Year. Now, you've been recognized by your peers all along. Do the awards help you in the industry?
Well, it's always good to be nominated. I haven't won many times, but it's good to be nominated and go to those awards things. And um, I just, I'm more concerned about what I'm doing than what other people are doing or what kind of fame they may have. If I thought about that, I'd probably be very discouraged. But just kind of be the best version of me that I can be, and that's kind of and that's a struggle too, because I want to do well. Um, but I'm not sure how well somebody playing acoustic guitar blues, I'm not sure how well somebody could do with that. So that's kind of keeping my expectations low, and that's cool. It's cool with me. I'm real comfortable.
Yeah, no, and I think fans appreciate, like I mentioned, those small venues. You mentioned the big stadiums. I think I, I rarely go to big ones anymore. The last time, I saw Jeff Beck and Eric Clapton a few years ago, and that was you had to go to a big stadium to see them. But normally, yeah, I mean, places like the Sportsman or Art Park,
Right. Yeah,
much
yeah.
much more fun.
They really are, and get that personal interaction with the fans, and I like that quite a bit, and that those are the type of shows I gravitate toward. I did go see Eric Clapton last time he was here in Atlanta, and there was thousands of people there and stuff, and that was fun. That's the only way you're going to see him,
Right.
unless you're lucky enough to be at a nightclub that he comes and sits in at, which I was one time, by the way. We went to see BB King. I missed a chance to see BB King, and this was in the '70s. And BB King was up there playing with his great band. And yes, there's probably 150 people there, nightclub, and BB goes, "We're going to call a special guest up on stage right now, Mr. Eric Clapton." And Eric Clapton got up there and played a whole set with BB King.
Right.
That was a magical night, but that's the only time I've ever seen someone like an Eric Clapton in a small stage like that.
Yeah. And those shows are great when things like that happen. People love that
Magic,
stuff. Now,
just
I did
magic.
I did see BB with Jeff Beck at Art Park where you
Well,
played, and that's not that. Well, I was in the fifth row, so it seemed small to me, but it also showed BB's versatility because those two, what a different and Beck's show is so completely different than his,
yeah.
and BB's comfortable with having all these guys on. They did jam together in the encore, which was very cool.
Oh, but that was great.
Yeah, a lot of fun. So you covered Dixie Lullaby, Leon Russell, Chris Stanton. I love Chris Stanton, by the way,
Me
but you
too.
don't cover too many songs. What gets you to do one?
Well, when we cut that song, Leon Russell's one of my biggest influences as a songwriter, and I saw him back in the day with the Shelter People, and then got to open for him countless times. And he was always, he was a man of few words for sure. Kind of let him do all the talking, and which means there were long periods of silence because he was a thinker. But we had some good times together, and I was really sad when Leon Russell died, and so I wanted to do a tribute song. So I did Dixie Lullaby, and I kind of recorded it in the way that I think Freddie King would have recorded it. And of course, Leon Russell produced some great Freddie King albums, Big Legged Woman, Woman Across the River, and stuff like that. So that was an example, and but generally I try to write all my own material because if I'm going to have to be compared to Skip James or Son House or Lightning Hopkins by doing one of their songs, I'm going to fall short every time. But if I'm the original of some songs, then I'm not going to fall short of these old pharaohs and their greatness.
You mentioned writing early in the morning. Is that, well, you said it was typical, but do you find the writing process similar all the time, or does inspiration hit in the middle of the night?
Yeah, when the inspiration hits, say if I'm traveling and I get a song title, I've got a list on my phone of all these song titles, and if I uh, get a song title idea and I'm driving and I don't want to lose that idea because there's been a lot of stuff I've forgotten. And or maybe I'll be in my hotel room and come up with a guitar lick and I've got a recorder on my phone and I'll, it's, the song lick or something, or even hum the guitar riff on there or play it on at a sound check or something. In fact, the main song off the previous album, called Devil in the Room. That's a guitar lick I came up with at a sound check in Joplin, Missouri. And I had my cell phone on a little a little stand by me, a little stool or something. And I was playing that lick and I go, oh, that's a lick. And so I hit record and I recorded the lick at the sound check for about 30 seconds and stop. And there it is, it's saved. And then I come back to Atlanta into my little studio and I listen to all those licks, that I think are keepers, and some of them I go like, "Whoa, what was I thinking there?" Erase. And then the song titles, I have this long list of about 30 or 40 songs, maybe more than that, song titles. And if I write a song around a lick, and then I'll go back to the song title list and see if any of those titles match the songs.
Right.
That's my process right there.
Nice. Well, we're almost out of time, so I would just mention that you're in Buffalo on February 15th. I was also talking to Matt Schofield last week, and he's with you in March, and he said to
Yeah.
say hi, and he's looking forward to it. So thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing all my New York friends and friends all over the country. If people want to know where I'm playing, tinsleyellis.com, and
Yeah.
you can see the depth of my madness. It's a lot of shows, not normal behavior for a 68-year-old man.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, Bob.